Morning, everyone. Welcome back to Red Brew Review. I'm your host, Julio, and today I'm joined by a very special guest today. I've followed him on YouTube and the socials for a good while, so it's an absolute pleasure to have him on. Mr. Adam Matic, how are you, my friend?
I'm very good, Julio. Julio, how are you? I'm ready for Christmas. Let's say that, and I'm ready for the Christmas rush of football alongside it. I think we're all what's the name? Preparing ourselves for what's to come. We know what this time of year is like. So yeah, trying to get as much rest as I can now, and then obviously into the chaos we go.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I forget what Klopp and Pep and them lot have complained about for years. I love the Christmas football personally, but everyone will have their own opinions about it. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. Obviously, everyone obviously knows you're a United fan. You go to games home and away. Could you just tell me about your experiences supporting United, home, away, wherever you go?
Mixed is the best way you could put it. As all football fans will tell you, definitely match going fans. You never know what you're going to get. You always go with hope. You always think that this is the game that's going to change it when you're on a bad run, and you always fear going into a game when you're on a good run. I wonder if this is the day when it all stops. It's the inevitable feeling of being a football fan going into a game, especially the Premier League in England, where it isn't a let's just say a cakewalk like it is in some other European leagues. Manchester United obviously hated wherever we go, so wherever we go, you do get that hate factor as well. It's always more intense watching United. I don't care what anybody else says. Like, we are the most hated club on the planet. Well, definitely in England anyway. So whenever you go away, for instance, it's heightened. There's a lot more. There's a lot more at stake. There's a lot more tension in the atmosphere. Let's say that. So there's that, but I love it. I love traveling. I don't do it as much as I used to now. I used to travel all the time away from home. I still go to all of the home games. I sometimes get access to press areas and stuff like that because of the work that I do, which is another eye opener and a different side of things. But yeah, it's entertaining to say the least. Tiring, I'll say that. Very, very tiring following a football club, especially if you're going home and away all the time. Like, it gets in the way of work. It gets in the way of a lot of things in your personal life. You have to be dedicated. And credit to the guys that do it year in, year out and go abroad and watch every single game. That is pure dedication to the cause. And put it this way, you have to have an understanding missus if you want to follow Manchester United or any football club for that matter. But yeah, the one word I would use is entertaining. Like, there's always something that happens, and a match day, honestly, a match day could be anything. It could be the journey in and drama there. It could be it could be at the game where the drama is, the journey back. At home games, it's a bit easier, obviously, but you get the little build up with all your mates. You're always in the same pub. A few drinks before the game. You get to see the same people, mix, mingle, build up the vibe, talk to people outside, and then at the game itself, sometimes the game itself comes second to everything that goes on around it and the build up. But that's just a match day. That's just a match day, and you can't beat it, mate. You cannot beat it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I have my own experiences of Old Trafford. I've not been for a while. I will be honest there, but I do have my own experiences. I mean, do you yourself have any like go-to stories that you love telling about like your experiences, whether it be something hilarious that happened on the day, or where a day where you still got into the match but everything was just going wrong on the day? Do you have any go-to stories about your United traveling experience?
Yeah, I mean, away from home, there's plenty. There really is. From every motorway being shut on the way back home, coming back from Crystal Palace at 3 o'clock in the morning on a night game, which is, as everybody knows who does travel, the worst ground to get to in the country. It's horrible. South London. And having that game in the middle of the week and a night game and trying to get back where they're doing motorway maintenance because every road's shut and just trying to navigate your way home and it taking 6 or 7 hours to get home. That is one. Obviously, you've got the City games. You've got the games. My best experience of a game was probably way, way back in the day when West Ham used to play at Upton Park, the old Bowl League. And I think it was a Saturday game, believe it or not, United on a 3 o'clock kickoff. The game, we set off, I think I got the red issue coach down from Manchester Centre. So everybody's drinking at 6 o'clock in the morning. So you can imagine the scene building up as the day goes on. drinking, everyone's buoyant. You get off, obviously there's a notorious atmosphere and sort of rivalry that United carry everywhere, but obviously West Ham are well known for having that type of fans as well. And yeah, in and around the ground, then you get in. Not so much trouble before the game, but you're inside the ground then, and you've obviously tanked up on beer. You're emotional as it is. We won the game 5-3. It's the famous game when David Beckham chips David James from the side. One of my favourite goals of all time that I've witnessed. We won the game. Beckham scored, Rude, Solskjaer, Nicky Butt, all on the score sheet. In fact, in that game, West Ham had Michael Carrick and Joe Cole in central midfield, and Nicky Butt bossed them both. So I'll always remember that. Then we get kept in for an hour. Then we get stuck outside for an hour. Then we've got people getting on the coach afterwards who've been in trouble with the police, all bust up, blood pouring from their heads on the bus. Everyone's coming home. The toilet hadn't been emptied, so you can imagine the scenes that were coming. Few people being sick, and then we ended up getting back and just going straight to the pub again and being absolutely wrecked, as in like the worst hangover ever the next day. But 5-3, full day of travel, fantastic game of football. Back at the pub, back in Manchester afterwards for a couple more pints before we finished the day. And just an absolute epic day. It really was. It had everything that you'd want. And it was good that it was on a Saturday. And I would say that's the only thing that's missing now. The good old-fashioned 3 o'clock kickoff where you can prepare your weekend. You've got Sunday to recover and do your little bits. But now it's all changed. The kickoff times have kind of ruined the planning of a match day weekend now. And yeah, TV's taking over, sadly. But I would say that was probably my best one. There have been some great European adventures as well. At Atleti Madrid a few seasons ago, where I sourced a ticket from a Atleti Madrid fan outside the day of the game and got into the home stand, worried about what was going to happen if United scored. Anthony Elanga equalised in that game, as we all know. I jumped up just out of pure sort of like jubilation side of things. And about another 100 Man United fans that I didn't know were also in the home stand jumped up around us as well. So it was just like, yeah, moments like that you'll always remember, like the fear and emotion. But actually on that day, that we had no trouble at all. And then there were quite a few United fans, like I said. But just to see United fans doing the same thing that you had done, just got into a ground by any way that you possibly can, just to see him play. And then everyone's jumping up and bouncing around. Oh, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I would say definite ones there. I've been to the San Siro as well. That was an epic away game over in Milan. Scary place, that one. Intimidating atmosphere. Wow, what a brilliant atmosphere that was in that place. But there's so many I could get into. We ain't got enough time, to be honest. But them, they stick out just for the whole package sort of side of things, like the journey and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think every United fan has their own version of all those stories, whether it be different European nights. I mean, like I've heard United fans talk about, Milan in '07 at Old Trafford, that late Rooney goal, and the way people just ended up 3 or 4 like seats further down. So, obviously, talking about your experiences, what about from when you were younger? What were your earliest memories as a United fan? Like, what really stick out to you from your childhood?
Standing in Old Trafford, watching United, and Mark Hughes was my favourite player when I started watching. Just the fact that there was no seats around me and was just stood up on the terraces. And that was like my earliest memory, and I thought it was brilliant. I can remember I was sat there in the stands watching the Stretford End being built from scratch back in the early 90s. Everything just sticks in my mind. I can remember Cantona hitting an overhead kick at Old Trafford for Leeds United in that game. In fact, where I remember United beat Leeds 2-0. I think Steve Bruce scored both goals. Cantona stole a show, though, with an overhead kick, which Schmeichel saved. It was a shame because he did it in front of the Stretford End, which was non-existent at the time and being built. But yeah, my early memories of United, going with my dad, used to surprise me every now and then. So we got tickets, we're going. Get ready, we're going now. Like, you used to get the tickets really late, and it's like, oh God, let's go. It was brilliant. And then just the old school atmosphere was different. It really was different. Like, honestly, if I was to say, if any United fan was to say, like, what the glory is, like, depends obviously what generation you were brought up in, but mine and the like late 80s to early 90s. That sort of era. That's when I started watching Manchester United. Mid 80s to early 90s was my kickstart. Then, like the K-Stan Barmy RMF and everything that was going on at Old Trafford, the 90s was absolutely brilliant. Honestly, if I could say, if anyone asked me like what era would you go back to, I'd go back to the 90s. Just not so much because that's when we started winning everything, but it just felt there was a huge connection between the players and the fans back then. There was a real vibe around Manchester. Manchester was just electric. Everything was happening. Obviously, you had the music scene of everything going on with Oasis coming through, the Hacienda at the time. The players used to just go out to the clubs and mingle with the fans as well, and still have the nights out. And it just seemed to be like normal, like men playing football, real men playing football, you could say as well. But no, the atmosphere was unbeatable in the 90s. People will say go back to the 70s, obviously climbing back up again and coming back into Division 1 promotion again and just fighting our way back after relegation and stuff. I get that, but obviously wasn't born then. So I would definitely take people back to when the Division 1 was ending and the Premier League was starting. Some of the players then were outstanding. It was brilliant. And United obviously took over from there. So I was lucky enough to see the glory years. I've seen some of the crap early in the 80s, but I was there when it all turned around for United. And funnily enough, it was when we demolished the Stretford end and rebuilt it, and the glory came with it. It was weird, but yeah, I would say stood there with my granddad and my dad. That was my early Man United memories. But I still remember, like the first game I went to was against QPR. I'm pretty certain we won the game 3-1. And that was my first one at Old Trafford anyway. But yeah, from watching them on TV to then getting to Old Trafford and witnessing it, and then seeing Old Trafford build over the years, like from what it was to where it is now. I've seen the Stretford End built, the North Stand be built, the Quadrant. I've seen the whole development of Old Trafford from when we had no seats in the Stretford End all the way through. So quite a decent experience going up to seeing it change. And you don't realise until you look back like how much has actually changed at the club. But yeah, if I could go back, I'd go back then. Early 90s probably would be my time that I would recommend for anyone just to witness and feel part of what was going on then.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, like, if you could pick an era that you would stay in, like, what would it be? Because I unfortunately was born in 2000, so I just about missed out on the 90s experience. But for the first pretty much half of my life, obviously all I saw was, winning. It was just winning every year, challenging every year, and then obviously it was a completely new dimension. What's happened in the last 11 years or so. But moving away from going to games and traveling, etc., I want to talk to you more about you in the YouTube space, like what your own experience in YouTube is, and because obviously you've got your own channel now, Forever United TV, got your own podcast, United Couple. Like, tell me about how they all came about and how what experiences you've got with those.
Yeah, in terms of where it all started, I remember doing some fan cams outside of grounds. I think around about 2018. So the Jose Mourinho era was when I sort of started getting into YouTube a bit. Made my own channel then, just as a bit of a hobby, doing my own little videos, just starting out as everyone does, learning as you go, trying to figure out what works best. I was sort of known at the time because of stuff that I was doing on like fan vlogs and fan cams and stuff like that on other channels, and it was then, and I didn't really take it seriously. I was just like side. Never thought you could be full time on YouTube to an extent of where I'm at right now, like and where everything is. But it was just like the enjoyment factor, just and people wanting to watch it, and then I just found like people moved away from normal TV to YouTube and online content over that space there from 2018. Obviously, lockdown kickstarted a lot of it as well, with everyone being at home watching and YouTubing and just trying to entertain themselves a lot. But that's when it really kickstarted for me. I started to get a lot of traction over just after lockdown. In fact, when it started again, that's when it started to go a little bit. Then obviously I stopped the channel a little bit because I was working elsewhere, and since kickstarting it again back in October last year, everything's just really gone so quickly and gone really fast, and then the channels grew to the level it is now, where it's getting quite a lot. It's getting a lot of views. It's getting a lot of interactions with it. It's going really well. It's been received really well to a point where I can now use this as my base to get media access at Manchester United, get behind the scenes at the club at times, into Carrington, press conferences. I've interviewed players. I've spoke to managers in press conferences. It's crazy what can happen if you just keep on going. And people, and it's still, like, I am humble in how people have taken to the channel now. People actually like it, and they go to me for their daily dose of Manchester United news. Like, they don't look at anything else. They rely on me to actually tell them what's going on, and that's how it's worked. And it's grew from then. It's a lot of commitment, and a difficult decision to go full on and commit fully into it, but it's been a roller coaster, and I absolutely love it. I do. But yeah, started 2018 and then just gradually grew it. But really, 2023 was when I took it seriously and just went, let's just go all in and just go for it. And probably the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah, I mean, I've been following you since about 2023. So even when your United Couple podcast started, I thought, oh, this is new, and I've been watching and I really love the vibe you've got about it. It's just,
Like you're
it's a
talking to
couple sitting
someone in the
down and
pub.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I'm aiming to have with this kind of thing. That kind of chill vibe, just sitting there having a coffee or a tea or whatever, just waffling about the football
That's
club that
it,
I love
mate,
so
because
much.
podcasting is the world, the future. Like, people get more enjoyment out of watching a good podcast or a good live stream or a show, whatever it may be, or a well put together YouTube video than the crap that's on TV right now. Like, let's be honest. And when it comes to football, especially, who wants to be, no disrespect, like, but who wants to be listening to Micah Richards trying to dissect a football game? Like, honestly, like, because we're unfiltered, because we're honest, because we can just lay it out there, and we can lay it all out there emotionally right after the game. I think people listen to, I think they listen and levitate to people who are on their level, really, and not above, and are not restricted in what they can say, which I think is why YouTube has taken off, and why all of them pundits, all of them ex-players now are doing exactly what we're doing. It's like we can't get in their world, but they've come to try and take a piece of ours because that's where the crowd is. That's where everybody wants to be and what everybody's watching. They don't want scripted garbage. They want just raw reaction. And this is, I keep saying this is why the overlap's just got now like pure sort of like uncensored swearing and just outbursts and everything in it, because they have to be seen to be real. Like, no one wants to watch the same thing they watch on Sky on a podcast. They watch the podcast because they want to see something different, and you can see them all changing. Who hasn't got a podcast right now who's an ex-footballer? Like, literally, they're everywhere, aren't they? And they've all tapped into what we were doing. Kind of unfair in a way. Like, you stick to your lane and leave us doing what we're doing because we can't come into your lane. Well, I have done personally because I have been on like Sky and Talk Sport and that, but that's just in a few different appearances here and there. But still, like, this is where it is. Podcasting, people want to see live streams, just real people, genuine people who are honest and can say what they want. That's what people want to watch right now and want to listen to as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do agree with your sentiment about the way they're coming over, and I quite enjoy it because obviously on the one hand, they get a head start with their status, and but on the other hand, the amount of like, with the overlap, with the stick to football, when they just sit there and start telling stories from the old days, I'm like,
Yep.
yes, these are the stories I've been crying out to hear for years, but on different platforms, they're not allowed to say it. They're almost restricted. But in this, because obviously you talk about, when you're outside the stadium, fan camming, if that's the word for it, talking to different fans, asking for their opinions. It can all seem so positive, but are there any negatives that come with the YouTube experience, whether it be just doing the podcast at home or even traveling to games and that?
Yeah, as with every bit of success comes the critics, comes the trolls, comes the negative people, and that is there every single day. Honestly, I've had I've had tons of abuse. I've had threats. I've had all sorts for what I've done and content I've created. But that's part of the territory. If you're not prepared to take what the real world is and what the real world brings, as in keyboard warriors, people who will really go for you and try and put you down at every single opportunity, if you're not prepared to take that, then you cannot go into it. Is literally the only reason I always look at it this way is that for everyone who comes in with a negative comment, the only reason that negative comment is coming because they're jealous of you. And that's how I always look at it. They wouldn't be trying to take you down if you was a nobody, because you've done something good and you've created something good. They want to knock you down. They just naturally feel like they have to do it. So every time there is a troll or there is a negative, I laugh it, I take it up, and I just put that, I pin it up there on the wall and go, another sign that we're actually doing well every single time. Look, we've had threats outside the stadium. I've been attacked doing a fan vlog before outside, nearly got arrested at that moment. That was working back in the day for another channel who I won't mention for obvious reasons. But yeah, it comes with it because people don't like the fact that you might actually be creating something and earning something off the back of what's happening at their beloved football club. And that's the way it's been. But to be honest, everybody's doing it right now. Everybody's latching onto it. Even the football club themselves are doing what we're doing. They just can't do it that good because they're not honest. And then they know they're not. I've spoken to staff that work at different clubs who want to say a lot more, but they can't. They're not allowed to. So, yeah, that's the beauty of what we've got. And you know what? You will upset a lot of people. There will be a lot of haters. Haters come with the territory, I'm afraid. But like everybody says, and everyone will say the same thing in the podcast and YouTube world, social media, if you've got haters, you're doing well. That's the only time you will get them because they're not going to come for anyone who's small because they're not going to get their traction. The only traction they're going to get is if they're going on to someone who's actually done well or quite big, and they can get a reaction from maybe hundreds more people who are trying to shoot them down because of it. They just want you to react, and that's their prize. But hey, at the end of the day, like I said, like we have to take it. It's any walk of life, isn't it? If you're doing better than someone else, they're going to naturally sort of feel jealous of you or something along them lines. And I just it hurts at first, but you just have to move aside from it. And that is the bit that is difficult because you can do it and everything that I've just said is fine, but it's your family, it's your friends. Then when they see it, they may not be able to handle it like you do. And that's what people forget and don't realize that happens in the YouTube world in particular, or any form of social media. Anyone who knows that person's connected to you can obviously message them and give their reaction to them. They can see all the bad mouthing for you. It may affect them and you not even realize it. That's what I've come to learn in my time. It's like, I can handle it. I'm all right. But your partner might be sat there really suffering with it and you don't even know. And that's what they try and do. They're just trying to make someone's life harder because they're jealous of what you've created and what you've got. And that's how you have to look at it. But you just have to always be aware that it's not just you. It's everyone around you as well. And just make sure that the person next to you or anyone who's involved in what you're doing isn't affected by things as well, because it does. They say it doesn't, but it does. It does affect everyone that's involved.
Yeah, I completely see what you're saying. Some helpful advice for myself or anyone else looking to go into this world, going out on their own. You talk about leaving places. Now, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, if there's any implications that come from it. But obviously, you've left certain channels, certain places that have a big following or a big in this space, shall we say, like the United Stand. I just wanted to ask you on your experiences working with them and obviously leaving them. Like I said before, you don't have to answer anything you don't want to. You don't have to say anything, but just if you're allowed, shall we say, to talk about certain things, what were your experiences like with them?
Yeah, you get a lot of access. You get a few more privileges and experiences. But ultimately, the only reason I left was because I felt I wasn't doing enough. I felt I was worth more. They didn't, and that's the pattern of the ways. I wanted to do more. They weren't willing to do it. It was getting less and less, and I just felt like I had a lot more to give. And sometimes hard decisions need to be made, because you do get opportunities, you do get a lot, you do get your face out there a bit more, and you can build, like you said, then you've got a bit of a reputation already from a bigger channel, then you can build on that to make your own. And to be honest, though, that had nothing to do with my success. My success from what I've got, I had my channel before I started. I was employed by anybody else. I did it all on my own. Like I said, I killed the channel, basically working for other people. So effectively, I was even in the worst situation, because it looked like I'd just given up, and I couldn't be bothered. So for what I created and what I did was down to just hard graft and just plowing through everything. Yeah, people know you, and obviously if you put certain comments out on social media and let people know that you're doing your own thing, it does help a little bit, gives you a little bit of a kick, but definitely not to the extent that, say, for instance, they would say, like when when anyone who's a big off channel or setup says that they created you. It's not. They wouldn't have employed you otherwise. They've obviously employed you for a reason, which is your talent, and you have contributed to making something really big. But everything ends. Like, no one lasts forever in a certain job, and you move on. And that's what it was for me. I just think I could have done more. That's all it was. I just wanted to do more, and it wasn't happening elsewhere. I've worked on other big channels as well. Like I have done a couple of them. I've had experiences at all levels. Like I said, I've done stuff. I've been in Sky Sports studios. I've been in Talk Sports studios. I've had regular appearances on both of them shows. I've met a lot of people. I've been in access to Manchester United through my own back, not through anybody else. So it's all about being brave enough to take that leap. With anything, it's like in any walk of life or any job. You feel you've got the comfort factor. Why should I go out on loan? Why should I go out and do it on my own I if it could all go wrong? You know what I mean? You've not got that security blanket. You just got to be brave. You just got to be true to yourself and believe in yourself and go full bore. And there will be knockbacks along the way, and people will try and say it's not worth it. The grass is never greener and all of that. But if you believe in yourself and what you're doing, and you're confident in what you're doing, and you can you can produce the content and keep it consistent and putting it out there, then you've always got a chance. But yeah, I would say anyone who's in this position in any business, like going self-employed or going it alone, go for it. Just get the experience, because the experience will put you in good stead later on with anything that you do in any career path. So I always say go for it. I've owned businesses, I've lost businesses. I lost my business I had for 15 years because of COVID. It destroyed me. You have to start again. You have to go again. Like, you just don't think that a certain pathway is the right one until you step foot into it or step onto that train and go in that direction. And you'll always regret not going for it, is what I say. As long as you believe in what you're doing, like I said, and I keep saying, that's all that matters. If you're confident and you feel like you can do it, go get it done. Make the decision, make the big call. And that's what I did. And I've never looked back. Never looked back. And yeah, the people that have helped me since doing it, I've had a couple of people helping me out from other channels. We was creating another channel as well, which didn't carry on because we were just so busy with what I was doing on FUTV. It just went to a completely different level where we just had to knock everything else on its head, because I was getting so busy with everything that I was doing on this channel. And they're the opportunities that came about, like, because we made that decision to go for it. And I will never regret any decision that I made. And this one was the best one that I ever made.
Yeah, no, I have to respect that. You know, to be in a position where you feel like you're brave and then you put yourself out there like that, I think it's something to be respected. Especially in this world where you can so easily be swallowed up by other channels, other people in the same space as you. So to go out the way you have and to do what you have, it's very impressive. Um, Now let's move away slightly from YouTube and let's talk more about Man United currently on the pitch. Obviously, season started. We had Eric Ten Hag. He obviously went, and now we have Ruben Amorim. What have you made of Ruben Amorim so far. You know, he's been in the job, what, a month and a half? You know, I think he's managed games in the last month or so. I know that obviously they appointed him sooner, but what do you make of him so far on the pitch, you know, off the pitch? You know, how's the era kicked off in your eyes?
Brilliantly. Obviously, we knew we were going to struggle at the start, but he's come in and he's trusted in what his philosophy is and his beliefs are. There's no one player bigger than the club. He's made that very, very clear, obviously, as we've seen throughout. It's a different backing in Ineos behind the head coach. It's their first appointment. So I was always intrigued to see who Ineos's first man would be, because obviously we started with Ten Hag. I called that out instantly. I said he's not the man for Man United at all. But Amorim coming in, honestly, he's the best thing that could happen to Manchester United right now. I just love the way he talks. I love the way that he's getting a reaction from the players. I love what he did with Garnacho and Rashford at weekend, just making sure that everyone knows and everyone knows exactly what he's about and what he wants to do. And that for me is the best way to go about it. United have to be competing. He talks up United like where they should be. He gives the players confidence that we should be aiming higher. And yeah, we've lost a couple of games. We've been found out a couple of times, but he did predict this. And no one is expecting him to perform miracles instantly, but still, looking at how we started, looking at the reaction from the players, the style of play, and what's actually going on right now, I think is more impressive that we can actually see something happening on the pitch. We haven't seen that for a while. I've been more than impressed with him, and I'm looking forward to the future, mate. Honestly, I feel like he is the right man, and he is going to be the one that gets the most and makes the biggest calls. And yeah, personally, I feel like we're in good hands, mate. I'm really happy with him.
Yeah, I like everything that he's brought to the table so far. I was quite fond of the appointment when it was made because, you know, I liked what he would offer to the table, you know, in terms of style of play, in terms of how he carries himself. And I think the big thing is he seems to be doing everything Ten Hag didn't. You know, you want to talk about press conferences, you want to talk about the way he carries himself, you want to talk about style of play, all those questions that Ten Hag had. Amorim seems to be clever enough to have just taken a leaf out of what not to do and just gone straight in and done his thing. And I think that's really good. The fact that we've seemed to finally have a manager. I know it's only early days, but he's not abandoning what he's about for what's. And I think that comes with personality as well. You know, I think maybe Ten Hag felt that his approach couldn't work because he had more of a steely approach, whereas Amorim is focusing more on, you know, how he carries himself and how he talks about the players a lot more. But that might just be how he is as a person. And you know, it's
No, definitely.
no one is expecting us to just go on this new manager bounce and win every single game. I don't think anyone was expecting that. But it is very refreshing to see that there is a clear style already set into place. He's clearly just putting players into the positions that can play there and saying, listen, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And he's not exactly done a lot wrong.
Yeah, no,
So
he's not.
far.
He's an understanding, the communication. That's what you're trying to say there, I think, because everybody knows where they stand with him. The players, the fans, the media. He's handled everyone perfectly, and that's not an easy job at Manchester United. And he's taken to it instantly. It's like he knew. And when he said his first interview for me, he says, "I'm the right man at the right time." He says he's the right man right now, and he's ready for this. So, and that taking away from that first interview to where we're at now and everything that he's done just falls in line with that one comment right there. He does look like he understands what the club needs, what the fans are needing. The communication has been miles better, the way he's handled the media, the players. It's a different world right now, Manchester United. And everyone's gone a little bit quiet. All the haters have gone a bit quiet, mate. So you know that something is working right.
Yeah, 100% agree. Moving slightly away from Amorim, obviously, you mentioned Marcus Rashford there. Obviously, you mentioned Garnacho as well. But I think the big news is around what's been happening in the last week with Marcus Rashford. You know, he gets dropped for the derby. We see rumours about what's been up to and what was the reasoning maybe behind it? And then we see that report earlier in the week from Jamie Jackson saying that he's being marginalised potentially and he's up for sale. What are your thoughts around not just that situation in the last week, but also Marcus Rashford on the whole? Because a lot of things have happened over time to lead up to this moment and this criticism from fans and all this going
Yeah.
on. So, what are your thoughts on it all?
A player that's been there too long. Simple as. I've backed him for years. I gave up on him last season. That was my cut off. I went full in on Marcus Rashford last season. I've still not forgiven him for what he did before that Newport game, going out, not even coming out to apologise to the fans. He cannot keep getting away with what he's getting away with. And I think he just needed to be put in his place. Ruben Amorim has put him in his place. He's a player that needs to be sold. And I think if you chop the head of the dragon off, the rest will follow. And he is the biggest statement signing, sale for Manchester United. Go, and everything will fall into place. I know it will, definitely, because he has got away with everything. He's kicked off because he's done this interview with every winter because he's not actually getting game time. And it's Garnacho gets his head down, tries to sort something out with Amorim in terms of playing and proving himself. Rashford goes behind the club's back and does an interview because he's not in the matchday squad. Honestly, he is beyond. I've had experiences with him myself. He just isn't a United player anymore. He needs to be sold, and once he's sold, this club will move forward a lot quicker. Trust me on that. And it's the right move for United. And Ineos have cottoned onto it. Ruben Amorim's cottoned onto it straight away, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. Player power at Manchester United is dead, and it starts, and I think will go a long way to ending if you get rid of Marcus Rashford. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I completely I concur with that. I think that I'm not going to sit here and say he's finished, he's washed, his race is run, all that kind of thing. But what I will say is about the fact that he it's just
United,
gone on for too
basically,
long
isn't it?
now.
Yeah.
It's just gone on for too long, and I think what he wants, that kind of that franchise status, I think, especially if he doesn't fit the system anymore, I don't think it's there for him. Another big player, Bruno Fernandes, obviously, there's been question marks about him in recent times. What do you make of him adapting to the system?
I think he's a player that will help Ruben Amorim. I think he's a player that will adapt, and he's willing to adapt just from what he's done at Portugal already. Obviously, I'm not saying this is because Ruben Amorim's a Portuguese manager and he's going to understand him instantly, but he's used to the chopping and changing and playing in different roles and understanding the system and understanding everyone else's role in that system like he does in Portugal. He plays in 3 or 4 different positions for them. So Bruno is a leader. He's our leader. And I think he has changed his game already under Ruben Amorim. I think he will be the biggest example of Ruben Amorim getting into this Manchester United squad, changing the ways, changing the culture, changing how United play and operate on the pitch. And the biggest word of all that we'll use, discipline, within game, positional discipline, player discipline, everything around the culture is what is changing at Manchester United under Amorim. And Bruno will lead. Bruno will go with him. That's it. I think Bruno is not going to be the future of the club, but I think he will be here next season, and maybe the club will look past that. But right now, I do believe that Bruno is the right man to be United's captain, and going forward, I think he will actually thrive under Ruben Amorim this next couple of years.
Yeah, I completely agree. I agree with a lot what you said there. I think that's a very fair assessment on a lot of Man United at the moment, and it's looking very promising moving forward. I've got one final thing to ask you. So what I'm planning to do whenever I bring people on is ask them to blind rank 5 United greats.
Yep.
So if you're up for that,
yep, let's do it.
So first one I'll say is Wayne Rooney.
Wayne Rooney, you could come ahead of him. I'm going to go Wayne Rooney at 2.
Wayne Rooney at 2, okay. Cristiano Ronaldo.
Cristiano Ronaldo, I would say 5.
5, okay.
Yeah, okay. 5. You can tell me age right now.
No worries. Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Ooh, yeah, I would have had Actually, no. Rude going in at 4.
Okay. Bruno Fernandes.
Jeez. Right. He has to obviously go in at 3, which leaves me with one more. This better be a good one, God.
Ryan Giggs.
Yes. Okay, I'll take that. Giggs can go in at number 1. So what was that? That was Giggs, Rooney, Bruno, Rude, and Ronaldo. Actually, I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that. Actually, people would say Ronaldo probably ahead of Van Nistelrooy at least, and definitely Bruno. But hey, it's blind ranking. You get what you're given, and you take the chance, don't you?
Yeah.
It could have been anyone that came out of there. Then I mean, there was Keane, Beckham, Scholes. Anyone could have come out. So I think I did all right with that there, mate. Cheers.
Yeah. I was quite fair to you with the hand, I think, but I'll probably fair warning. I probably won't be as fair to other people in the future. Adam, thank you so much for coming on and taking the
Pleasure,
time
mate.
to chat to me. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have as well.
No, I did, mate. Thank you.
No worries. So yeah, obviously a lot of you who are watching, you'll know where to find Adam. You'll know where to find me based on Adam. Do you want to shout your socials as well, just in case?
Yeah, all the same, really. If you look up Adam Matic or Forever United TV, FUTV on all socials, you'll find me there. Simple.
No worries. And as for my content for anyone watching, just a Rashford video is already dropped on my thoughts on the Rashford situation. So give that a watch, like, share, subscribe, and do the same for this one. Thank you for watching, and see you later. Have a good one.
Cheers, guys.